Okay, I'm just back on deck really quick. This is not going to take long. Let me get set up. Let me see, what time is it? I got 20 minutes. It's midnight. We're no longer... What's going on, everybody? SecOfunk's back on deck. Just wanted to come and share with you all something that you may or may not already know. But it's interesting, and I think that you guys would appreciate or can appreciate after I explain to you why I chose the logo that has been at the head of my channel. Let me go look at it's been at the head of my channel, or been the logo of my channel. I mean, shoot, before SecOfunk. SecOfunk's channel has been around, what, like 10 years? But I've always had this logo right here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. I've always had this logo. I probably had it since the mid-2000s. But definitely for the last 10 years that you guys would know, I've had this logo as my logo for my channel. And I just thought that, given the current events and things that are going on, and that in the eve that we're on right now as I'm making this video, I thought, like, wow, you know, this would probably be a good time to come on and just explain it. Not that it's a big takeaway or anything like that. It's just something that I'm deciding to reveal. Probably would never make this video if it wasn't for our current sitting president, but I'm gonna make it anyway. So how did I come to make that logo? That logo, or that picture, is the cover of the Gap Band's first album. I believe it's their first album. It would be nice to know if there's other, like, underground, unknown, rare, acetate, test pressing, generic label music projects that the Gap Band had that predated this album right here. This album is Magician's Holiday. So this is their first album, the Gap Band. And like I said, it's not just a cool picture for me. I chose that picture, and I was very deliberate in doing so. So let me give you some of the backstory on how I arrived to choosing that picture. Back in 1999, when I was going back and forth from DC to Tallahassee, Florida for college, that's when I first started experiencing a lot of bullshit from police officers, whether it be in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, most notably southern Georgia, right before you get into Florida, even the northern Florida State Highway Patrol. And I'm going to spare you the stories, but it wasn't just being pulled over. It wasn't just being pulled over and pulled out of the car. I made a comment on Facebook. Had those events happen post 2008, I probably would not be here. Especially by how many times it happened. Definitely one of those times my number would have gotten punched by one of those race soldier police officers. But keep in mind, I may ramble, but keep in mind, I'm building and I'm getting to the point, why I chose that as my logo. And then I'm going to tell you why I'm saying it now. So, as you're going back to school, you start sharing, you come back from Thanksgiving break, you start sharing war stories, so to speak, with other kids. I went to a HBCU, Florida A&M. So the whole student body there was predominantly black brothers and sisters like myself. So we start sharing stories and you know, college is where you really get that vigor and where you really try to find a purpose. And so I started researching all the events of the past, the events from Jim Crow, slavery, post-slavery. And when I say events, I'm talking about the lynchings, the rioting, the massacres, things, the details surrounding all of those events, like all of those eras, the Jim Crow era, the slavery era, the civil rights era. And you start researching those. And doing my research, there's always been 4 that always really disturbed me, or just reading them, it just did something to me. It made me emotional, I guess, and it really buried itself in my psyche. I'm always aware. I read and refresh myself on these events because, to be honest, there's still details coming out about them even to this day. And those 4 events is the lynching of Mary Turner. I believe that happened in 1819. Mary Turner. The second one was the mansion fire of Madame LaLaurie. And I think you spell her name Lalaurie. Madame LaLaurie of New Orleans, Louisiana. A mob burned her mansion down after a discovery of some very disturbing things she was doing with her slaves. Which, by the way, I think, is it Russell Crowe or Nicolas Cage? One of those two purchased this mansion for a while. I don't really know the details behind that, but I know it was either one of those two. It's very strange. I gotta look into that. Matter of fact, I'm reminding myself to read what was up with that. But anyway, so the execution of lynching of Mary Turner, the mansion fire of Madame LaLaurie, the lynching of Emmett Till, and the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre. Now, as we know, the Gap Band is from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when I started collecting records around the same time that I was trying to get a better sense of my blackness here in America, not that I was oblivious. I grew up in a household where my father made it very clear on how to navigate society as a coming-of-age black man. And he spared no details. So I was aware, but nothing ever will prepare you. Well, I guess it did prepare me. But still, it caught me off guard. And getting that hard reality and finding yourself in the middle of some bullshit. Probably surrounded by white men with guns in the South that don't have your best interest at heart. There's nothing like it. So I wasn't oblivious, but I was doing this research. Around the same time, I was getting into record collecting. And one of the tidbits that I encountered was that the Gap Band, the GAP and Gap Band stand for Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. 3 streets in Tulsa, Oklahoma that create a border around the Greenwood neighborhood, which most people know as Black Wall Street. They were paying homage to that event that happened in their hometown. And that's why I chose that as a logo at that time. So moving forward, from me discovering that to me creating the SecOfunk's channel probably 7 or 8 years later, or 10 years later rather, then going another 10 years and having it to this day, on the eve of Donald Trump going to Tulsa, Oklahoma and giving a rally. He tried to do it on today, or yesterday rather, it's midnight, Juneteenth. He was really trying to double down on putting that thumb in our eye. But I think that's fucked up, you know. And I don't even know if Donald Trump is aware of all the details surrounding that. Let's go deeper with the Gap Band. So, their second most popular hit, You Dropped the Bomb on Me. And like I said, some people know this, some people don't. I just was having this conversation earlier, and I had family members that did not know this. But you drop the bomb on me, you listen to the lyrics, something about you want to get up, dance on the dance floor. People think that this is supposed to be some foot moving song, where people are this is supposed to be a dance floor song. But when you go and start reading the eyewitness accounts, which by the way most recently was discovered in 2015 by the Smithsonian, they found a documented where somebody was dictated an eyewitness account, and they documented it. When you look into the history and the details of that event, that massacre, that was the first and the only time in the history of the United States where government airplanes bombed its own citizens. There were supposed to be airplanes circling the riots and surveying what was going on, but yet in I think it was either the mayor or the governor or some statesman at the time boarded one of the many airplanes armed with turpentine and all kinds of chemicals and explosives, and flew over and threw the bombs down on the buildings. The eyewitness account that was just discovered, the lady who gave the eyewitness account said that it explained why all the buildings were the roofs and the top floors were burning first before the bottom floors. It wasn't the rioting on the ground and the massacres on the ground. It was the bombing that those planes did. So when the Gap Band is saying, you dropped the bomb on me, baby, it's, for lack of better terms, a double entendre. You know, it's something cool to say about some girl maybe that's on the dance floor, but the hidden message is tied back to that account of where that statesman boarded that airplane and dropped bombs on black citizens in the same hometown that they're from. Now think about this for 1 second. That happened in the 1920s. My grandmother that lived with me for a quarter of my life was married in 1911. So I lived with somebody for a quarter of my life that was alive and married at that time that shit took place. Now Charlie Wilson, who is the leader of the Gap Band, who's probably damn near 80 years old now, 70 or 80 years old now, imagine the family members. He probably had aunts that were killed, uncles that were killed. You see what I'm saying? So I chose that logo to acknowledge the Gap Band paying homage to that event that happened in their hometown. It's as simple as that. That's what it is. That's why I chose it, and I just thought it'd be interesting to explain it. Also, on that song, You Dropped the Bomb on Me, towards the end, there's a I think a woman talking about I'll never forget. So now you know. Now you know. And that's why the SecOfunk has had that specific picture on my channel for all this time. And I just thought, what better time to go ahead and really explain to you how deliberate Donald Trump is being with this bullshit by going to Tulsa. It's fucked up. But that's okay. We don't get emotional. We remain strong, you know, and you know, the warrior class will be activated if they need to be activated, because I really think that this is the last decade for this bullshit. It's been boiling up and now it's boiling over. So I mean, it may be coming to an end, but you know, that's it. You know, black people who are descendants of American slavery have a very specific history in this country that we share with nobody else. Nobody. We did not come to America. We came to a landmass, and we built this shit with our blood, sweat, tears, souls, and lives. Nobody shares that history with us. We have a very specific history. And Donald Trump going to a place that was probably one of the most atrocious times during all of those centuries of oppression, and gonna stick his thumb in the eye of the people of Tulsa, who are live and breathing, who grew up with family members that survived that. That I just can't think of some more. That I just can't think of any some more foul shit to do, man. Like, you know. But like I said, the timing is good for me to go ahead and just drop that knowledge. If you didn't know it, if you did, then kudos to you. I mean, because, you know, that's a deliberate thing to know those details, and so that only means that you cared enough to educate yourself about that, and that's what's up. And that's it. I'm gonna get back on here. I'm gonna make another video. I had a request. Somebody requested. They made a request, and they wanted to know what's my favorite LP in the whole collection. I don't have one, so I can't tell you that. But what I am gonna do, he gave me a good idea for another video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to show just the albums that I spin the most. Which by default, I guess, would speak to, I guess they're my favorite albums, right? So I'm gonna come back and I make that video. But that's it. That's it. Signing off.